So I'm going to be sharing with you some tips for painting portrait at home. I'm going to be doing a self-portrait, hence the mirror. I'm going to be using a board which you can get from any art shop. This has been primed with gesso and then painted with this green ground. You need a selection of brushes, and here's some examples. A big one here, hogshead, flat brush for the background. This one is for sort of sketching in the outline to start with. Some flat square head hogs and synthetic brushes, but you can use whatever you want, but this is what I'm using. You need some paper towel for blotting your brushes on. I'm going to be using a solvent. This is Zest It and some linseed oil. Zest It's great because it's safer than using turpentine. It doesn't have the strong fumes. Palette knife for mixing your colours. And the palette which I use is, I had this piece of glass cut. It's the perfect size. It's a lovely smooth surface to work on, and you can put it on a neutral coloured surface, which is great for mixing your paints. Pre-mix some colours here, which is helpful. You can do that as well. Just helps you be a bit more organised before you start. So I've got a light skin tone, medium, dark, and a yellowish colour for my hair. Then I want to get some solvent on my brush. So you want to start with really thin paint just to map out the features to start with and just place your head on the board. I've just got some solvent in here, it's Zest It. So I'm going to make my brush nice and wet and put it into a sort of medium tone. Nice thin paint because it's going to sketch out the features. Decide where you want to put your head on the page, on the canvas. So I'm going to actually use the painting I've got behind me, which you can't see, but it's a print. It's got quite nice flat blocky colours. So I want to kind of place that to the right and my head slightly to the left off centre. And I want to fill the page probably about this much with my head. And I quite like my stripy t-shirt. It's nice to include some kind of detail like that. So I'm going to include about this much of the t-shirt here. So I'll just start off and you can see how I begin. So you want to keep the shapes almost geometrical to start with, really loose. Just to place everything on the canvas. And try and get my plait in. It's likely that you'll be doing this stage for quite a long time. And it doesn't matter what it looks like now, you just want to stay really loose to start with and not worry too much about any sort of detail. Think of your brush as a pencil that you're drawing with, but it's better than a pencil because it's wide and bristly, so there's lots of room for error and correction. I'm just going to put roughly the edge of that painting in here behind me. Once you've got the rough outline of your shapes, then you want to put a vertical line down the edge of the nose where you can see the light hitting the dark, because that creates sort of middle of the face. If you've got more of a flat light, I've got the light coming in from the left, so if you've got a flat light, just draw, and you're looking straight on, just draw down the centre of the nose. But I'm slightly to the side, so I need to go slightly off centre here. Then you want to put in your vertical lines. If your head's slightly tilted, remember that your vertical line will be slightly at a slant. And then putting in your horizontal lines will just make sure that everything is on the same level. Remember that the eyes are about halfway down the face, and you can always use your brush to measure against other things. Always, always measure against other things in the face. So you've got the width of the face you can measure against, comparing the whole time. You've got the length of the face from the hairline to the bottom of the chin. So there's my hairline, chin, eyes about halfway. Then you want to put your nose in, which is about halfway between the eyes and the chin. And then the mouth is about halfway between the nose and the chin. This can all be altered, that's the beauty of oil paint. You can keep moving it around. Because it's all rough. And you can also have some paper towel to hand and just wipe away any bits. So now you just want to keep going around and refining these shapes before you put any other details in. You want to make sure that these early shapes are correct. The top of the ear lines up with the top of the eyes, in my case anyway, and the bottom of the nose, the ears, comes sort of between the nose and the mouth. Always remember to step back from your painting to give it some distance, because you might suddenly find that actually your proportions are all off and it's much easier to see when you step back. I'm just measuring the width of my neck now against the length of my whole face, because I think I've got that pretty much okay. It's about twice. So then I hold my pencil up here and I just do comparison 1, 2. I think it's roughly about right. So now I just want to pay a little bit of attention to the shapes within the face, and I'm going to do that by just mapping out what shadow shapes I can see. There's a bit of reflected light on the side of my face here, that's coming from a window over there, but mostly I've got light coming in from this side, creating shadow here above my eyebrow. And then it comes down the left side of my nose. Again, you can just be really, really rough with this to start with. Okay, so now I've sort of just popped in that shadow line that's coming in from the window on the left there, and I've just indicated where that eyebrow might be. I'm just going to pop in the other one. And still at this stage I'm just making sure, before I put any other tones in, my features are roughly in the right place. because I don't want to be moving things around when I've got colour in there. So all the time measuring one thing against another, being really sketchy. Okay, now I'm just going to indicate where my eyes are. You don't want to draw an outline of an eye, just maybe popping in the dark for the pupil. Sorry, not the pupil, whatever it is, the iris. Making sure your eyes aren't too close together, obviously. Or too far apart. See, at this point I want to be stepping back, getting some distance. There's usually about one eye's width between your two eyes. Okay, I think I've done as much as I can here. I think I need to put in some blocks of colour now, some lights and some darks. So I'm going to get myself my brush like this. It's a flat hog head. This one that I was using before, if it's easy to show you here, this is a round head hog brush. And then I'm going in for a flatter one now, a flat with a square head, because that's going to give me nice geometric flat marks. There's quite a lot of reflected light on this side of my face, so I'm actually going to just draw that in, because I think it's going to be quite a significant shape to help me with the features and the bone structure. That's what you're doing by drawing in the shadow shapes. It's helping you sculpt. Okay, so with my my shadow tone, which I've mixed, still keeping it thin at this stage, I'm just gonna start popping that in. It's a little bit orangey, so I'm just gonna add some blue. This mid-tone that I've got here is a mixture between yellow ochre, white, cadmium red, a touch of black, a touch of blue, ultramarine blue, and some of this, which is Unbleached Titanium Dioxide, which is a kind of cool, very cool skin tone. It's a bit of a cheat to get to your flesh tones. You can see here where I've put the eye in, you can just go over that, because really you can pop it back in. It's just to sort of ground everything at the beginning. I've left a little bit here for the highlight of that nose, to remind myself where that is. Still keeping the paint thin, just with solvent mixed with your oil paint. Okay, and then now with another brush, or the same brush, I'm going to use the same one because it's got very thin paint on it, so it's just easy to wash off. And then I'm going to get my lighter skin tone here, which may be too light. I might have to add a bit of yellow ochre to that. Let's see how it comes out. And then this reflected light on this side, I'm just going to make a little bit darker. It's not quite as bright as the other side. So I'm adding a bit of yellow ochre and little bit of red and a touch of black just to cool it down a bit. Okay, and then I'm now going to just roughly pop in the hair. Just the basic shape, basic light and dark. So I pre-mix it, sort of blonde mid-tone there, and then I can just add a little bit of black to that, or a little bit of white, whatever it needs. Let's start with the mid-tone. Right, so before we get to the next tutorial, I want to make sure that I've got colour all over my canvas. So that's a really simple block in now. I'm just going to block in the t-shirt and the background. So I'm going to get a wider brush, big wide one here for the background, and I'm just going to get some of this lovely blue which I have here. This is phthalo blue. Mix it with some white. I'm not necessarily going to keep this in the whole background, I haven't decided yet, but just for now I'm just going to pop it in. Very rough, just scrubbing it in. It's another hog head brush, flat head. Can be any big brush for this. This is fun. I think I'm going to leave that edge there and just do like a white for the background, for the wall behind the painting. It's kind of a grey, bluey white anyway. And then for now I'm just going to pop in a white for the t-shirt. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it there for today.